We must be on week 4 by now, and this week from our Messy Play video I'm going to talk all about Play-Doh. So earlier on, in an earlier post on Facebook and on Instagram, I've put the holy grail of Play-Doh recipes, which is my mother-in-law's wonderful Play-Doh recipe that she makes for me for Messy Play. It produces this much, so a really good amount, and it lasts for about 6 months, so it's really worth having. There's a lot of bonuses of making your own. I know that flour's a bit hard to come by at the moment, but if you can, it's well worth doing. You can see that's quite a lot for one child, so you could just half the recipe if you were struggling, or half it and colour different sections. If you've got Play-Doh at home, which is quite likely, then you're probably, like in my good old days, ended up with pots of dried up old moulded together brown that doesn't really invite much play, because we often end up buying a pack of Play-Doh with different colours in, which is obviously nice to play with, but actually after years and years of doing this at Messy Play, I've found that the best of the best is to have one lump on the table in one colour, and the kids don't care about the colour, it's having a big amount of it to play with that's important. And this lasts a really long time. You just need to wrap it in cling film to keep it from drying out, and it just sometimes needs a good old knead to get it workable again. So with the Play-Doh, obviously you can colour it, it's just food colouring in the recipe, but also one that we do that's really popular is you can just not colour it at all, which gives you a kind of a beigey dough looking stuff, and you can put into that, when it's all done, add in maybe some cinnamon or some ginger, which gives it a lovely scent when the children are needing it, and obviously lends itself to a cake baking theme or biscuit baking theme that they might enjoy doing. You can also, we've had green before that have put some mint essence into, so that it's really lovely pepperminty smell when you're kneading the dough. You could do pink or white or colourful and add maybe some vanilla to give it a scent. It just gives another sensory aspect to the play, which is really nice and a bit more fun to play with. So once you've got your lump of dough, you need something like a tray is a good idea on your surface, just to keep everything bits from going everywhere, and then you can save it more easily. The other thing you can add is glitter. And that's really nice for the children to do themselves if you can bear it. If you've got older ones, maybe better still, but we've done it before, we've had it on a tray. If you've got one of those little shakers of glitter, let them shake it in like salt and pepper, and then really, really knead it in, because it takes ages to distribute it through the dough. But once it's done, and you've got a lovely glittery dough, which is nice. So the idea that we have at Messy Play is that we really focus in on a theme for Play-Doh, and that I think is what helps the toddlers play for longer, because if they're just going to have the Play-Doh pots out on the table and maybe you've got a set of cutters or whatever, they'll play for a little bit, but this, in our experience at Messy Play, means that they will spend a lot longer focusing on playing. So I'm just going to give you different themes that we use and the different ways that we do it, hopefully with things that you might have around the house. So the way I present it on the table is with this, I don't know what it's, like a party dish or something. You might have a toddler dish that's separated into sections, or so I've seen trays with the same thing, that's quite useful. Failing that, one of these would do just as well, a muffin tray. It just means all the stuff, it just looks more inviting, and I think the toddlers or older children think, oh, and then they're more likely to get involved and play for longer. So I would present like a theme in a tray, in a pot like that, so it's ready to go, and I think that helps them focus. So one of the things, probably the most popular one that we have at the shop, is doing biscuits and cakes. And the favourite of that, if you think back to last week's video, is a cardboard oven, which is the most, it's a really simple oven, a box like that I made, and I pulled the top down, so you can pull the top down and up, and you can put a little shelf in. And the children play with that for ages. And so to put a set out for that, I would have something like a tray that can be the oven tray, so any cardboardy bit that you can use for that. Or something that's really nice to use is the tray from a chocolate box, if you've got one, because it's got nice little sections that you could roll bits up and put them into. Usually got some of these hanging around, so those can go in and then you can make your cakes and put them in the oven. We've got little silicone ones at the shop, but these paper ones are just as good. So you could have that. And then of course cutters you might have at home already. You might have some biscuity cutters, rather than, they're just the same thing. So for rolling out and pressing in and then putting your biscuits on a tray, putting them in the oven. You could use your own ones of these. There's nothing to stop you using a mini one of those to put things in, why not? And then I would have in my tray for that, I would have some cutters, some paper cases, and some, maybe these are cherries to go on top to decorate, and maybe some gems. They're really lovely shiny gems. Whatever you've got lying around that is usable, any kind of crafty stuff that you might have. So that would be cakes and biscuits. So also a bit of building. Bit controversial at the moment because pasta was also in short supply, but you don't need too much of it. So spaghetti is really nice, and anything with a tube or a hole in it, because you can build, you can snap it, you can make them stand up in it, snap it, you can thread them on, you can make really tall towers. Just when they've finished playing that with that, make sure you take the pasta out because it goes soft and sticks into the Play-Doh. But then you can keep that in a bag to reuse next time, reuse it again and again. Again, I would have a set out with those little bits in and maybe some tools for them to use to chop with. Because the thing about Play-Doh is it's a really common child's toy and child's activity, but it's actually dealing with loads and loads of developmental skills for little children. Obviously they're fine motor, but also right up their arm and strengthening their shoulder girdle, which is all those skills that get them ready for writing and developing and lifting heavy objects when they're bigger. And also rolling. If you've got a rolling pin, that is the best skill ever for Play-Doh. If you think how hard you actually have to push and how much you use your core strength to do that, those are all really important developmental stages for children. So dig out a set of bits, you know, your old cutlery, the little children's cutlery, any plasticky bits, any safe little knives that will cut a nice line. Straws are good, plastic straws are good too. You can stand those up in it and thread things on. Forks obviously make a really good pattern. They're really nice. So I'd always have something to play with, maybe some tools of some sort, something to stick on, so like that sort of a style. So building, so also animals. Of course, my good old dinosaurs, favourite. So I might have a whole tray set out. These go really well with dinosaurs because you make trees and sort of structures. So you could maybe have pasta, you could have some little dinosaurs there, because once you've rolled this out, they make really satisfying little footprints in the Play-Doh, which is nice to make. And you could also have yourself some stones, and you could use the Play-Doh to make little homes and caves for them, or volcanoes. That's really nice to do. So dinosaurs, or cars, of course. Cars will make you a good track if you can grind them in. You can make a good lines for your cars to go along, or just make roads and little signs along the way in your Play-Doh. I've seen a really lovely one making a bird's nest. So some Play-Doh, maybe some sticks from the garden, or maybe some spaghetti would be good, or noodles. And then a ball of the Play-Doh and some of those little fluffy chicks that have been around at Easter. That was really nice to do. This one's a favourite too, so ice creams. So you could scent your dough with some vanilla perhaps, and you can make a little ice cream shop. This works, this keeps them occupied for ages. So that's just a loo roll sliced up and made into a cone. Then stab some holes in a box to stand them in when they're done. So they can do that. And then I had these knocking around from some sort of bakery kit that we never ended up using. You can poke those in as well, have them standing up. So you can make ice lollies, and you could put sprinkles on, or you could have some glitter. So we've got some lovely photos of kids having done this at the shop. Poke them in there. Make some ice cream to go in your cones. Have some sprinkles on, have some different toppings. That's a really good one that they really like at the shop. And then maybe lastly, a bit more freestyle, so to make a tray up that makes monsters maybe. So maybe get rid of all of that and find some scraps of crafty stuff. So I had loads of this stuff hanging around, which I don't know what you're supposed to do with it, but it's good for Play-Doh, it makes good patterns. And then I had some pipe cleaners. I cut them to different lengths. Just be a little bit careful because they're quite sharp at the ends, so bend the ends over. But they make great legs and arms, and these are the best thing for Play-Doh ever. Goggly eyes. If you can get yourself a pack of those, that's hours of fun, because all you've got to do is make yourself a body or a head, and you can tell them they're going to make aliens, so you could have some legs. And they do sit, or horns, that's good. They do sit for ages at the shop doing this. Wonky eyes, some sort of weird arms. Getting carried away now. There, great. So have a go, have a rummage around, get yourself a bag of bits and bobs and present it as a tray of things to do with a bit of a theme to make them focus for a little bit longer. And send us some photos when you do have a go. Okay?